Hey, hello and good morning. I am doing some routine maintenance on probably the chuck I use the most on this lathe. I've run this lathe for about a year and a half, just about every day. Got quite a few hours on it, and I thought I'd show you some of the maintenance things I do. I put a piece of steel in here and it ran out a couple of thousandths. I'd like this chuck to do a little bit better than that. In earlier videos, I've ground the jaws, and I may have to do that again, but eventually I'll be rebuilding a chuck or two, I'm sure. So I'm going to stick a little bit of cloth around this old screwdriver. It's not real sharp, and I'm going to clean the scroll. See if it's got a little bit of junk caught in it. A little bit there. I don't know if you can see it. A little bit of metal. It's good to do that a couple of times. Now, this chuck I bought used on eBay. It was under 250 bucks, and it needed a little bit of work. It needed the jaws ground, but otherwise in really pretty good shape. I didn't have to take this and remachine it. Chucks hold up pretty good with just some basic maintenance. All right, that looks pretty good. I'll move the camera a little closer here. You can see the scroll. Now, an important place to lubricate the scroll is right where this greaser is, but Bison suggests using a lithium grease on chucks, and I think lithium grease is good if you're never going to take the chuck apart and clean it or oil it again. Lithium grease seems to hold up pretty good, but I generally use oil, just machine oil on them. And I can see I got that scroll nice and clean. So the next thing to do is the jaws. And I will find, that's number 2. And I get number 1 jaw here. And there's 3. Here's number 1. I'll take and clean this up a little bit. There went my screwdriver, but I'm done with it. I'll take and brush. I see metal caught in there, so I'm going to brush that out. Okay, that looks good. Yeah, that's clean. Okay, I'm going to find number 1 slot here. They marked it on the front. There's 3. There's 1 right there. Okay, so I'm tightening it to bring the jaw in, so I find the start of the thread, back it up just a little bit, make sure these slots are nice and clean. Okay. Okay, it started. I'll go to number 2 and get that one cleaned up. That's it. Yeah, it looks good. I don't want to lose that brush just yet. Got a little bit of kerosene on this rag here, probably with some oil. Okay, I'm going to stick number 2 in. I lost that brush. Okay, it started. And number 3, find the brush. There we go, I'm back. Nice and clean there. Looks good. Looks very good. Okay, here's the third one. Now what I do, we'll get that one started. There it went. See, they're all going now. Now I'm gonna, where the scroll pivots on the chuck body right there, I'm gonna bring that jaw right up to that. I think you can see down in there maybe. Let me look from behind. Yeah, I think you can see okay. And I will grab a can of oil here. It's just machine oil here. And I'm going to put a little puddle right there. Then I can move this back and forth and it'll oil that pivot. And plus oil the scroll. That's probably plenty. It'll fling out. Okay, I got that center pivot oiled, and it'll run down the scroll. And everything has a film of oil on it. Okay. Let's see how this does. I get those jaws, make sure nothing's stuck in them. I have used this to machine a lot of parts. Okay. Everything, no burrs or anything. And I marked this as the master jaw the last time I ground it because it ran the most true. So I will stick a bar in there. A 7/8 inch jack shaft or a transmission counter shaft. Probably for an old tractor. Okay. Now I'm going to just run that in, make sure it's kind of burnished, that there's no burrs. It feels real smooth. Now I'm going to rotate that just slightly to the back and tighten it. Tight enough to machine it. Okay, I'm going to get a dial indicator on there and see how it did. I'm hoping for some improvement. And right on 0. I'll take the camera loose and you can look at the same time, see if it worked. Okay, it's back to less than 1/1000th run out. See, this is working. Now that's how it should be. Now, don't forget, this is the fixture I used to load the jaws. That's the fixture I used to load the jaws. Now that's a factory style fixture from long ago. It was showed on an old film. Okay, I'll have a look at some of the other chucks I find useful. Yeah, this 8-inch Cushman 3-jaw is a direct mount chuck. It doesn't use a back plate like this 4-jaw. You can see the back plate, and then the chuck screws to the back plate from the front. This one, the back part of the chuck actually has the D mount on the chuck itself, the back half. These chucks split right down the middle. Now, they don't make Cushman chucks like this anymore, I think, but Bison does, and it's over $1,000 for the same chuck made by Bison. I think likely most manufacturers made direct mount chucks just like this. This is for a D16 spindle, and this is the smallest direct mount chuck you can put on a D16 is 8-inch 3-jaw. Now, I think I use this chuck the most. Now, the one I used, I suppose, second is this 8-inch 4-jaw, which is a vintage Union steel-bodied chuck. And this is a good chuck to use on a powerful lathe, like a small Axelson like this. This lathe is really powerful. And I have to be careful with this chuck because it can easily damage it by overloading it. And this, like I say, this machine's got some muscle. So this is the second most used chuck right here. And I guess I'll go in that order of how I'm using them. So this I found on, I believe, eBay for a couple $100, and it's well worth it. I don't know if anyone's making a steel body 8-inch 4-jaw. Okay, we'll have a look at some of the other ones here. Okay, next up is these two 5C Collet chucks. Now, this here is one of those eBay Bowstar 5C Collet chucks. It uses a key that draws the collet in. And the other one here is an Inco vintage Inco lever operated 5C Collet chuck, and this is really nice for repeat things, but sometimes for one-offs this Bowstar is better. It's just sometimes easier, and plus it's easier to wrestle on and off the machine. Very handy. I do an awful lot of small parts, and as time goes on, I'll be doing some larger parts, and we'll have a look at those chucks in a minute. I got one more jaw chuck to look at and talk about. Okay, this one I'm doing for 5C, and I've got a full set of 5C Collets and then some. And I use 5C on the other machines and attachments. Okay, we'll have a look at the next one. Okay, now here's a chuck that I find very useful, but I work with a lot of bushings and thin tubing. Like this is a tripod that I modified to do better videos. And see how thin wall that aluminum tubing is? High quality tubing they use on old tripods. But you can grab this stuff and not distort it at all, and it's just really nice. You can thread it and get a good grip on it. And you got to keep in mind that 6-jaw chucks only work well on absolutely or very close to round objects like this, and or bushings and things like that, like standard off-the-shelf bronze bushings. This is a nice thing to grab them on the outside and dust the inside as needed. if you need to do that before installation, which is often. So these are very handy. This is a 6-inch buck 6-jaw and a real old one too. I'm keeping my eye out for an 8-inch size, which would be nice. But they did offer mounts for the 6-inch. Okay, we'll have a look at the next ones, and we're going to start getting bigger. Okay, here is my all-time favorite chuck. And these chucks here came standard on heavy-duty lathes like the Lodge and Shipley Power Turn that have 4 Timken spindle bearings instead of 2, and a lot of horsepower. Now this little Axelson's only 5 horse, but it's got a lot of power, and I've used this same chuck, not this particular one, on a power turn that I had for over 20 years, and it's just an excellent chuck for castings and really heavy stuff. You can see it's got serrated jaws. They just grab castings just great. And we'll look at the back of it. Now this is a direct mount chuck, and they called these convertible, and I believe the sizes were 10-inch to 18-inch anyway. And you can see it's D16, and if you notice, here is the drive pin for A-type. So that's why they call this a convertible. You pull all of these pins out, and in case you didn't know it, the taper is the same for A and D spindles, that short taper. So you remove the pins, knock these plugs out here, and then you can bolt that to A1 spindle. Isn't that neat? But that's solid steel here. Very, very nice chucks. And this one hasn't had much use. It's been knocked around more than it's been used. And it fits the spindle on this machine perfectly. It's just an excellent chuck. And I think I found this on HGR. In about the $200 range. I think it's about $60 or more shipping during the COVID time. So I don't know. HGR seems to be closed now. I have seen these on eBay, but the prices, seem to be coming down on stuff like that. But I'll tell you, if this chuck was made today, it would be several $1,000s, over $3,000 for that chuck. So finding something like that under $500 is an excellent bargain, in my opinion. I don't think Bison makes anything quite like that. And some of these you'll see are cored out. They'll have big holes drilled in them. But I kind of like the solid steel ones. Now, to get this up on that machine, I use a lift table, a hydraulic lift table. Roll this onto the lift table, then roll it over onto a wood, I guess you call it, what do they call that? A sled, a wood sled, and then I can stab it. It holds it at the right height and stab it into the spindle. I cannot use a sky hook on this machine just because of the length of it. It just doesn't pencil out that way. And but it's not a big deal. I don't use these big chucks that much right now. Okay, I'll show you the next big chuck. Now this here is the match to that Cushman. I don't think Cushman made anything like this. This is a 12-inch Bison heavy duty 3-jaw chuck that's back mount. And I'll show you that from the top. You might find this kind of interesting. It's got a 4-inch hole, and this is a 4-inch bison chuck in the hole. Okay, you can see from the top. I'll pull that bison chuck out of there, the little 4-inch. Isn't that cute? A 4-inch and a 12-inch. So this is a back mount, uses a back plate, and there's the back plate on there, and you can see how much thicker it is, how it extends from the spindle more than a direct mount. So that's the rest of the story on that. However, I've never seen a chuck as good or well built as this Bison 12-inch, and these show up. I can't really see one wearing out much internally if it's within 40 years old, but the jaws get worn and then they run out. And so this one had a run out about 30 thousandths. It made it kind of a crappy chuck, but all it needed was to be cleaned up and the jaws ground. I didn't have to do any machine work or anything on that. These things are so tough that even the pinions have a bearing sleeve, so that everything else, the pinions run in the cast. But this is a steel body, forged steel body, and the price on these now is over $3,000 for this chuck. But like I say, these things show up pretty cheap. I've seen them locally from $150 to $300. Probably the best buy in a 12-inch chuck, but this chuck probably weighs about 135 pounds. It's heavier than the 120 Cushman solid steel forge jaws. So these are heavy, and probably a waste on many machines, something like that. But this is what came on the Axelson I bought from Yoder machine, and it was his lowest cost machine, I'll tell you that, at the time. Okay, I got one more fixture to look at here that goes on the spindle, and I'll be back with that. This is the latest fixture for this machine, this faceplate, which was a kind donation, and I really appreciate the donations, by the way. It helps things here quite a bit, being on a fixed income and all. Well, this faceplate has seen some use, and it's just really a good faceplate. It runs very, very true. And I've seen faceplates that don't have a mark on them, never been used, that have a bad wobble to them, but this is just a great one. Now, when I got into machining back in the 70s, faceplates were used quite a bit. And there were old-timers that used the toolmaker's buttons for locating holes. And you can get better accuracy within range of the faceplate in your lathe than you can on a regular milling machine like the old Brown and Sharp over there. The Bridgeport kind of pushed a lot of this stuff aside, but nonetheless, it's still a very useful work holding device for holding some very odd shaped things. And I've got a riser on here, and that's helpful for smaller parts. So I'm going to be doing quite a bit with this faceplate, and I'm looking forward to it. Well, anyway, I hope you're all doing well and you're doing well through these holidays. And we got Christmas coming up, and that's going to be exciting. And I hope Thanksgiving was exciting for everybody. It was for me and Chloe. So, anyway, that's my lineup of chucks that I find very useful. I guess I just find chucks useful, but I'm doing more or less repair and holding a lot of different things that just need repair machine work rather than manufacturing or anything making 100 of. But this is a very important device here for this machine, and we'll get on with that. And I'm working my way towards the jig board here. I've got those trays for the in measuring rods, and then I got to make an arbor adapter so I can do 1.25" cutters for my shaper or spindle molder woodworking machines. I want to be able to sharpen those cutters and create cutters using the tool, a cutter grinder. I got a lot to do. Okay, thanks for tuning in, and I'll be back. If I can find the button. We're almost to the end.